I'll call to order the September 4th, 2024 Fishers Plan Commission meeting. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
That's way better.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. DeReamer. Present. Mr. Fain.
Here.
Ms. Logan.
Here.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Moulter.
Here.
Ms. Stoller.
Here.
Mr. Richards.
Here.
Mr. Stevenson.
Here.
We do have quorum. Thank you.
Thank you. We can conduct business today. First agenda item is for the Commercial Low Impact District and Commercial Low Impact Overlay District. It is a request to add the Commercial Low Impact District and Commercial Low Impact Overlay District to the Unified Development Ordinance. The provision of the CLO OL shall apply to all properties lying wholly or partially within the district as shown on the official zoning map. We have Ross Hillary to present for the staff.
Thank you, Chair. For the record, Ross Hillary, Director of Planning and Zoning. Before you tonight is two items under one text amendment, the Commercial Low Impact District, otherwise known as CLO, and the Commercial Low Impact Overlay District. The request is to add both the Commercial Low Impact District to the UDO as well as the Commercial Low Impact Overlay District also to the UDO. The Commercial Low Impact District is to establish and to provide development standards for residential lots adjacent to primary corridors that previously were residential in use that could be developed for professional and office types. This would add a new commercial designation within our UDO. So we would have C1, C2, C3, and the CLO, which would in our minds be below a C1. It is also have restrictions that the properties are to be residential in nature and have limited standards, which I'll go over tonight, as well as limited uses, which includes office, medical office, beauty hair salon, day spa, and nail salon. Those are all defined within our UDO. As you can see on the agenda, there are multiple parcels that were included on this. I will go over those for the record. The first group is 13008 116th Street and 13042 East 116th Street. And then we have some along 126th Street, 10036, 10038, 10056, 10114, 10138, 10154, and 10140 East 126th Street. Another group along 106th Street is, 126 is 10442, 10468, 10478, 10518, and 10548 East 126th Street. And then along 96th Street, we have 9610, 9630, 9660, 9690, 9790, 9770, and 9780 East 96th Street. Two more slides. 13345 East 126th Street, 7990 and 8010 East 106th Street. And at the corner of Brook School on 126, we have 12604 and 12602 Brook School Road, and 12558, 12592, 12608, and 12638 East 126th Street. In the last slide here, we have 11513 East 116th Street, along with 11565, and then 13326 East 116th Street, and 13346 East 116th Street. I will go over the two different options or the proposals tonight, and then I will go back to that neighborhood slide. So all of those parcels that we've shown you, we are requesting to be placed in a commercial low impact overlay district. That does not change the zoning. All those properties are residential now and will remain residential in the future unless brought before City Council and Plan Commission for a rezone. The specific line in the overlay district that I wanted to point out is in the application is when a property is requested to be rezoned, the base zoning district shall be the CLO commercial low impact district that I will talk about. So that's the first portion here, the impact overlay district. The commercial low impact district, otherwise known as CLO, would be a new section added to the UDO. It has development standards as well as allowed uses. Those development standards have building setbacks. They have a height restriction of 35 feet, which is similar in nature to the residential properties adjacent to them. They have a maximum floor area of 4,500 square feet and a maximum impervious area of 60%. The allowed uses that would be allowed in this new district would be office, medical office, beauty hair salon, day spa, and nail salon. Also found within that zoning district is a site plan example. So the parking is required to be at the side or the rear of the property. And included is also illustration characters. These are examples of some projects that has come before this committee. One being More Berry Dentistry, which was a residential lot that was converted to commercial. And the other one is also on 116th Street. I will also add that we have lighting restrictions, signage restrictions, hours of operation restrictions, as well as architecture restrictions shown here. We did have a neighborhood meeting in May where we invited all these residents that were included on this list. It was located at Cornerstone Lutheran Church. So the one resident that came to that meeting at that time was George Odom. His property is located here, otherwise known as the Tree Farm along 116th Street. At that meeting, we talked about this opportunity here. We talked about the recent rezones of Magnolia Grove and dry planning, where lessons were learned, both from the developer and from the staff side. We also learned how this overlay district and this new zoning district would not restrict would not remove future public meetings. These all would still have to come before this board to be rezoned, but as an additional layer on top of that property. And then the second item I wanted to show is the public comment that was shared with you tonight, or earlier today, excuse me. This project, the property owners are located here on East 126th Street. They are also here in the audience tonight. They would like for their property to remain residential, which is allowed with this overlay district, and they have resided within Fishers for 47 years. With that, staff does recommend approval. I'm happy to answer any questions. As you know, this is a public hearing, so I will leave it at that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ross. Any questions for Ross before we open it up to the public?
So I just want to make sure I understand this, Ross, just for, so you had one person request that they remain residential, which I think personally fine. The zoning is not going to change. They would have to come back and request a zoning change, and it still could be denied, but the only thing, what we're saying with this new status or, part of the UDO that it could be is to become this new commercial status, which only allows these things and is residential in character, but that's not a guarantee that it can become commercial. In other words, this body or any other body past us, okay, that may be there, could deny them that and make them still sit on residential.
That is correct. So if they were to seek a rezone, whether it's them or a future property owner, what this gives us is a common starting point,
Right.
Versus a guarantee. So,
Right, so that's what I want to try to avoid, because one of the things that was said to me a number of times by a number of the petitioners coming in is there was homeowners who were selling them lots and telling them verbally that they were commercially zoned, which is not the case here. We are not commercially zoning this in an overlay district. The underlying zoning remains the same. You still have to come back before this body and ultimately council to have it rezoned, but you've got a starting point so we don't go through all these different iterations of what we're trying to look for in terms of the fit and character of what we're like in those infill locations.
That's correct. And our staff, we answer many phone calls and emails all week long from realtors or property owners asking that question. And it's very easy for us to look at that zoning and communicate that to them. When we do see signs throughout the community that are inaccurate, we do make that realtor aware of that, and they typically change those signs.
Yep, appreciate that. I just want to make sure before the public comment comes up that we are not changing the zoning of any of these properties currently.
That is correct. They are to remain residential.
I had a quick question, Ross.
Yeah.
How were these properties selected?
It's a great question. So we looked along all of our primary corridors, as you noticed, 116, 126, 96th Street. What we looked at was for properties that were around an acre or lots that could be combined to kind of give that commercial feel. We looked at ones close to primary intersections and other commercial nodes. I would say that this is likely not an end-all be-all. There's an opportunity for us in the future to bring additional parcels, or if someone wants to elect to be added to the overlay district, we'd be happy to do that. But it was a combination of that, identifying properties along all those major corridors.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kim. Selena?
Yes, I have a few questions. I just want to clarify. So the office that you stay, I'm assuming that's real estate, insurance, financial planning, those type of things, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so then you say spa. Does spa include something like tattoo?
It does not.
Okay,
beauty
I just
care.
want to make sure, because I don't want somebody living next to a tattoo shop if they don't want to.
I
So-
think we have allowed, I think like microblading or eyebrow tattoos is the maximum that we've allowed if that falls within a hair salon. But if you were to think of like a tattoo parlor,
Yeah.
that is not in the definition of day spa.
Okay, the other thing, like I said, from what I learned, in addition to what Pete learned here on this, some of these former go-arounds, was residential in style. And I know with drive planning, they had a different residential style, and that was a residential style, I agree. But when you look at the other things along 116th Street, whether it's what we approved for the hair salon, whether it's the dentist's office or some of the other offices that's on down there, it doesn't match that residential style. I would like to put a condition on approval that it needs to match the residential style of the area. You can't just bring in another residential style.
I'm happy to make that modification before council.
Okay.
Thanks, Ross. Thanks, Selena. Any further questions for staff? Thanks, Ross. Brad, go ahead.
Just off the top of my head, I'm not totally disagreeing with Celine, but if you like Model A and I want Model B, why can't I put my Model B home in there? That's residential.
Okay, so when you go into a neighborhood,
I understand
you
what you're
have all
saying,
these
but
different
let's say you're
models.
looking at a 1950s subdivision, you want everything to stay 1950 and not bring it up to the modern standards? I think we need to allow the freedom of expression for what is happening that year, because this thing's gonna go down the line for years. So I don't think we wanna keep an older, I'll say an older subdivision, and it has to stay older looking when we can modernize it. So I disagree. I'm not in agreement with adding that.
Is there any way we can change? I mean, I see your point, but also I see a point of, you know, we have a housing addition of Cape Cod houses and they want to put a container house in there. That just looks
Well, that's for
ridiculous.
the board to decide. That's why they
Well,
have to come back to the board.
We couldn't on more planning. They said, no, this is a residential style. This is what we like. It's a residential style. It meets the
But they
specifications.
still have to come back to the board to get it approved. So we have that authority to deny it.
Like I said, I would prefer to have a little bit tighter wording in that it matches some of the residential styles rather than them being able to just put in what they wish.
Does the illustrative character that's added provide any guidance that's on the screen? So these were two staff believes are residential in nature projects, opposite of what Mr. Dreamer said, though.
Hey, Ross, what if instead of saying it has to match, I don't know if we can put language in that says it can't conflict with or it can't stick out. They have the freedom of choice to pick something a little more similar to what's there, plus one of these residential styles, but I know it's such a subjective thing, but I'm just wondering if we can give both of them kind of what they want. Because really what you guys, neither one of you want is something that sticks out like a sore thumb, correct? That's really the point. It's not that it really matches, you just don't want it like sticking out to seem odd, I don't know. I'm indifferent on the opinion, I'm just trying to help them settle.
No, I like that proposal, that it can't conflict or, with the, with the theme that's around there.
Okay, we have our work set out for us on that, but I do agree, some subjectivity does come into play there.
Yeah.
It's how do you interpret that? Yeah, but great discussion, thank you. Any further
The only
comments?
thing I'll point out is we have pretty good UDO standards as it relates to homes now. I mean, we've gone a long way in terms of what we've done for home constructions and what they're required with as many different architectural elements and different materials that are going on there. And I think your illustrative purposes are very good to bring that in. Understanding both Selena and Brad's comments, and I don't disagree with really either of them, but I think, a little bit more ambiguity would be better, okay, for, people, quite frankly, than trying to narrow it in too far. I mean, I don't want to narrow it in too far, because I think we should still try to stick to our current characteristics of homes that we would allow to be built new here in the city, right? I mean, we can't do anything with the older homes, right? They look the way they look. But anything built new has to go abide by that current UDO standard for homes. And I think if that same condition applies, then you're getting exactly what Selena wants, and you're getting what Brad wants as well, I think, because you're applying that new standard to it, and it's still got the variety of choices that would be in there from those architectural styles, my opinion.
Yeah, from a staff perspective, I'm comfortable with the word not in conflict of. I think that still opens it up pretty
Yeah.
broad, but I can defer to you guys on the exact.
Yeah, it's not like we've got a whole bunch of A-frames hanging around here and lean-to houses, right? I mean, so, right, I mean,
Correct.
Thank you, thank you for that comment. At this time, I will open up the public hearing. If there's anyone from the public that wants to address this matter, please approach the podium and share your comments. Please also share your name and address. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. Any further discussion?
I'll make a motion to send a favorable recommendation to City Council with the add-on that I think said, what?
Not in conflict.
Not in conflict with the surrounding areas residential.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, Kay, please.
Mr. Dreamer.
Aye.
Mr. Fain.
Aye.
Ms. Logan.
Aye.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Moulter. Ms. Stoller.
Aye.
Mr. Richards. And Mr. Stevenson.
Aye. The motion carries. Thank you. Ross, staff communications?
No additional staff communication.
Any summary of council actions?
No summary of council action.
Okay. Well, we can consider ourselves adjourned. Thank you.
Awesome.
We did.